Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Welcome, and how are you doing this week? I have one quick pointed question I wanted to bring up right here at the beginning, and that is, did you find time this last week to work on innovation? Recently, I was teaching a 7 Laws of Innovation workshop. The 7 Laws of Innovation workshop is around innovation leadership, how to put together all the elements just beyond the process of generating great ideas and execution, but the broader context of all the other pieces that have to come together to really achieve organizational success when it comes to innovation. One of the feedbacks that I got that was repeated multiple times at the end of the workshop and questions that came up during the workshop was around finding time. Time just to think, time to innovate, time to drive execution, time to pitch. Time became that constraining resource, that thing that was just, you couldn't get enough of no matter how hard you tried. So today's topic is how to create time for innovation. How do you create it? How do you find it? How do you protect it? How do you prioritize it? And then today's topic, I'm sharing with you a lot of my own experiences, both my frustration, both as an innovator, but also as a leader. How do you lead teams? How do you lead organizations to prioritize time for innovation? So you're not going to want to miss this show. But before we jump into it, got a favor to ask. Can you like and share this episode with others? Others within your team, others who you think are frustrated and challenged by the same issue around time, making time a priority. So go ahead, like it, share it, let others know, help us let other people know about the show. And with that, let's jump into this week's episode of Killer Innovations. This last week, I was wrapping up a 4-part series of a workshop I was teaching. So it was Thursdays for 2.5 hours each Thursday for 4 Thursdays on the 7 Laws of Innovation. Now, I've written about this many times. The original post came out in August of 2011. It turned into being a big deal. Inc. magazine wrote an article on it. A bunch of other magazines wrote articles on it. But in the process of the workshop, we get to the end of the workshop, or whenever I teach, I run what I call an AMA, ask me anything. You can ask me anything about my career or, things I wish I'd done differently or lessons learned or whatever. So we got done with the 7 Laws of Innovation workshop, and I ran an AMA, ask me anything, whatever you want to ask me. And the common question that came up multiple times, and I've heard it before, is hey, great, I've taken the Innovation Bootcamp course. I've now taken the 7 Laws of Innovation, which is aimed primarily at innovation leaders. That's what that workshop, if you're a leader of innovation or a CEO trying to instill innovation in your organization, that's what the 7 Laws workshop is all about. So the question I always get is look, taking the boot camp, now I've completed the 7 Laws workshop. My problem is I just don't have enough time. I've got everything else going on. I've got projects. I've got to deliver. I've got, fix this problem and do this and run around and do that. I never have enough time to innovate. What is your recommendation? How do I, find the time to innovate? So that is the topic for today's show. Today's show is focused solely on creating time for innovation. Creating time for innovation, which is, it comes across as being like you're going to manufacture time. We're not manufacturing time. We only have so much time. but how do you create the time, that breathing room for innovation? Now, and a lot of people are like, I run out of time at the end of the week. I'm too tired, right? It all rolls into the need for, how do you prioritize it? How do you make it important? How do you make it such that you're going to prioritize this, make this important for you? So let me give you some examples of organizations that have prioritized this. And then we're going to talk about what is it you can do to prioritize time for innovation. So let me give you an example. Back in the early days at HP, where I was CTO, but this is long before I was CTO, back when Bill Hewlett and David Packard were still around. And this was really an offshoot of something that Bill Hewlett started, which was the 20% time. Now, you may have heard it more recently. Google's got the 20% time, and great. They all copied it off of HP and Bill and what he did. And what Bill did was he literally set aside time where everybody, all the engineers, could go off and work on, fun projects, side projects, things that they wanted to prioritize. And basically from Friday was kind of the day. You could do it across any time, but Friday was kind of the day. And it really got ramped up in the afternoon on Friday. So from noon on Friday to the end of the day. Now, you could use any parts in the facility. All the parts cabinets were wide open. You could take parts and assemble stuff. But the important rule of this is you had to demo what you created. You had to show off what you created. Now, back in the very, very early days of this show, I had the opportunity to interview Art Fong. Now, Art Fong was HP employee number 9. Yeah. His ID badge, employee number was number 9 on his ID badge. And Art got recruited by Bill directly while he was, both Art and Bill were doing radar work for the military, World War II. And so Art joins HP, and one of the projects that Art worked on, and he showed me these photographs of the Friday afternoon demo. Art went and bought a bunch of Army Navy surplus gear and put together the very first radar gun for measuring the speed of vehicles. And they set it up in the parking lot outside of what is affectionately referred to as Building 3 on Page Mill in Palo Alto. And they had someone driving up and down in the HP station wagon, which was kind of the universal vehicle. And there's a picture of Bill Hewlett, black and white picture. Bill standing out in the parking lot with a coffee cup in his hand, taking a sip from the coffee. And Art is showing off, and it's this big chunk of gear on carts and tables out in the parking lot. And they were running this car up and down the parking lot, and they were playing around to create the radar gun. Now, luckily, HP never got into producing radar guns for speed traps and those types of things, but that work led to the development of new test gear, things that you just never would have anticipated. But as a result, though, people felt like they had permission, they had time in order to go and create new innovations, new ideas, and that became just part of the culture. Now, the other is other examples that some other organizations have done is in the planning, in the project planning. How do you prioritize innovation? Most organizations will fill the time. They will prioritize getting a project done to a client, right? So it's 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and find time on a Saturday afternoon when you're catching up on your sleep to work on new things. No. You need to make it a priority. And this really gets down to discipline. How do you prioritize? Do you prioritize 40 hours a week of all the normal stuff and then innovation gets what's left over? Or do you prioritize and say, you know something, we are only going to schedule 35 hours a week. So we're going to take 5 hours a week and not schedule it. And not schedule it doesn't mean that it's used for paperwork or expense reports or any, no. All of that fits into the 35 hours a week. The rest of the time is think time, innovation time, create time. That is what that extra 5 hours. That is a very well disciplined organization that can do that. Set the bar, set that objective, and stick with it. Protect that time. Other organizations have used things like creating what I refer to as an innovation vacation. So this is, you take vacation time. It doesn't count against your normal vacation time. And quite honestly, I'm not a fan for, quote, official vacation time. And in fact, the company where I'm a CEO at, we have unlimited PTO, unlimited paid time off. My biggest problem is getting people to take time off. You need that time to refresh and rethink. Some organizations can't quite get their head around unlimited vacation, but what they do is they give you an extra week, and that week is vacation week. So that vacation week is all about innovation. It's all about either you going off and sticking your toes in the sand and just thinking, taking your notebook with you, or maybe it's going around to different parts of the world to get inspired, whatever it might be. Now, I've talked about this in the past. What I'm a big fan of and what I do personally is trend safaris. Trend safaris. I'm going out and it's like I'm not hunting big game. I'm hunting for new trends. What's the new thing that is coming that I need to keep my eyes open for? And I would go to make trips to like the Hanover Furniture Fair. Big, important. The Hanover Furniture Fair has one of its biggest influences is on color. What color room's going to be like? What fabrics are going to be used on furniture? Go to fashion shows. I used to go to Fashion Week in New York as an example, or I would go to the World's Fairs like Tokyo and others where you can go and see what other people are doing. So Trend Safaris was one of those, quote, innovation vacation activities that I have taken, and I just find them so beneficial, so impactful, that, in my frustration, I don't get to do enough of those. But I'm doing them today in the form of traveling around in the U.S., seeing what innovators are working on that are kind of outside the spotlight. These are not innovators that are going to be on the front page of Inc. or Fast Company or on the online sites. These are small little innovators doing very interesting work in the parts of the country that 99% of the people will never travel to. And those are the kinds of trends that I like to see and get a feel for early, because they eventually do and can become something meaningful. So, trend safaris. Now, this is great. These are all things that other people can do. You're thinking, oh, this is great. My boss is never going to let me go away for a week and go to a trade show or an event like the Hanover Furniture Fair. It doesn't have anything to do with our industry. Or, they're always going to book me out at 50, 60 hours a week, and I have no time left over. Phil, you're not helping me here. Well, let me help you. What is it you can do to create time? What is it you can do? One is prioritize. Look, I'm the world's biggest procrastinator by far. I'll stack myself up against any of you. I am a notorious procrastinator. I have to kind of like push myself. But innovation's like anything else. It's like authors, right? You got to put the hours on the keyboard if you're going to write a book. It is going to require the time. You've got to slog through it. You've got to commit to it. You've got to put in the hours. And what I've learned both as an innovator and as an author, and they're very, very similar, is consistency is more important than quantity. It isn't about that you got to go spend 10-hour days. If you could just go spend an hour a day and do it every day for 1 hour, you will make huge progress versus waiting until you could find that 10-hour block of time, which might happen once a month, once a quarter. Just do an hour a day. Do a half hour a day. Do 15 minutes a day. Those 15 minutes quickly add up, and that's how you create innovations, new ideas. Write a book, create a course, create a new product. 15 minutes a day. That's all you need to do. I sound like a health club advertisement, but this is kind of what it is, right? You've got to be consistent. Consistency is more important than quantity. And third is accountability. Accountability. Tell somebody else what you're going to do. You're going to say, look, I'm going to do 15 minutes a day, and I want you to make me accountable. Ask me at noon. Send me a text message to tell you how many words did I write today, or how much time did I spend, or how many ideas that I come up with in my 15 minutes today. You need to be accountable. Look, I thought about writing a book for many years. It was always a dream of mine. Well, until an agent actually approached me after listening to the podcast and said, hey, I think you've got a book here. And he actually helped me put together the whole book proposal. He marketed to the publishers. We ended up with 9 publishers interested in the book. All of a sudden, I have a book deal. That's the ultimate accountability. An agent who put in that kind of time, and now I have a signed contract where I'm committed to produce a certain number of words by a certain date. Accountability. Who is going to be your accountability partner? Because if innovation's important, then you're going to prioritize that, but you need to be held accountable. Find an accountability. The other thing you can do is talk to your boss, right? Show what you are doing to prioritize. Do the work first. Don't go to the boss and the boss says, hey, right now, we're kind of busy, blah, 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 blah. And then you sit back and go, see, I don't have any time. No, don't use that as a cop-out. Prioritize your time. Even if it's just 15 minutes of your own time, get up 15 minutes early, spend 15 minutes in your idea notebook working on ideas. Show that to your boss. Show that you're putting that time in first. And then ask for some guidance. Say, hey, how do I prioritize this work on creating innovations against everything else that's on my plate? Where does this fit in? And then also create some deliverables early. Show your boss the benefit of you having just a little bit of time in your day focused on creating innovations. That can be hugely valuable. And so, again, talk to your boss. Get, 15 minutes on your own time, another 15 to 30 minutes a day on the job with your boss's permission to take that time and set aside and go off into a breakout room or a conference room by yourself to work on some ideas. Those chunks of time start to add up and can become quite meaningful. Once you have that time allocated, protect it. Protect it. It's like exercise. You're going to get up, you're going to go to the gym, right? If you don't protect that time and you start like, oh, I'm tired today, I'm going to sleep, pretty soon you're out of the habit. And what's the saying? Was if you do it, 30 days or 60 days or whatever it is, if you do it enough days, it becomes habit. You need to do this. You need to create the time to innovate. Creating time for innovation is critically important. Without time, 0 ideas, 0 innovations will result. Time becomes that catalyst. But you got to do it. Do it for 30 days. Do it for 60 days. Because once you've done it, 15 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, whatever you can prioritize, then it becomes habit. Then you get up and it just becomes part of the natural process that you are going to do. So you want to protect it and turn it into a habit. So those are the things that you can do. You can prioritize it. You need to be consistent. That's more important than quantity. You need to set up accountability. You need to talk to your boss, get them to allocate that little bit of time. And then once you started creating these times, you prioritize those 15 minutes, protect it. Do it every day. If you've got an early morning call at 6 o'clock, get up earlier, but always carve out those 15 minutes or those 30 minutes each and every day. Now, if you are a leader, if you are a manager of a team, you're directing an organization, you're a vice president with multiple teams underneath you, the number one thing you need to do as a leader is give permission. Give clear, unambiguous permission to everybody in your organization to create time for innovation. Creating that time for them to think, creating time to work on ideas, creating time to come up with whatever the new product, service, whatever it is. Giving permission. Now, you can do that by setting aside time. You know, maybe you don't do Google's 20% time, or what HP did, which was the noon on Friday through the end of Friday, which always tended to end up with a beer bash, by the way. Good old Silicon Valley days. But something, even if it was, one day a month, where you set aside, where it was just innovation day. Some organizations create twice a year hackathons, and it's like a 2 or 3 day thing. Teams come together and they spend 3 or 4 days and they hack an idea for a product and then present it to management. If you are a leader, don't wait for someone on your team to come to you and say, hey, can I get some time? And can you help me? Be a leader. Give permission. Tell people clearly, say, hey, you have permission to prioritize 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week to just thinking, working on coming up with that new product or that new service. Give permission. It is so, so important. So, as I started off, what I'm talking about here is you can't actually manufacture time. You cannot create time. Time is a perishable. We get a certain amount of it. When it goes past, you can't get it back. You can't put it on the shelf. You can't store it in the freezer and thaw it out when you need it. When it's gone, it's gone. We only have a certain amount of it. And that's once we don't have it, we don't have it. But you need to create time by setting those priorities. You need to prioritize innovation. You need to prioritize thinking time. You need to prioritize your creativity to come up with whatever that new idea is. You need to prioritize that. And that becomes really the thing that determines whether you are an innovator or not, right? How important is it? Look, innovation is the number one skill CEOs are recruiting for. Most recent survey asking CEOs to rank the most important skills. Some of you may think, it's technology, cloud, supply chain, whatever. No. The number one skill that CEOs are recruiting for is innovation. It is creativity. They're looking for people who can come in and create that next product, that next service, that next thing that's going to differentiate themselves. And look, innovation is absolutely key to competitive success. One organization's ability to innovate will determine its long-term success against its competitors. So, create the time for innovation. Not next week, or I'll work on it next month, or I'll make that a New Year's resolution. No. Starting today, starting right now. At the end of this discussion, get that pen, get that notebook out. Start creating the next ideas, those innovations that are maybe your own personal projects. It may be related to your job. It may be to a nonprofit that you're involved in. But now is the time. Create the time for innovation. If you don't create the time, nobody else will. Today's the day you need to start prioritizing the time to innovate. Nobody else is going to create that time. Nobody's going to come and say, "Well, here you go." You need to prioritize. You need to prioritize your personal time. And I don't know about you, but there's things that I do that if I really got down to it and asked myself the hard question, it would definitely be a lower priority than working on my ideas, my innovations, the things that I want to create, problems I want to go solve through my own human ingenuity, my own personal creativity. So take the time, set yourself that objective. Tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up 15 minutes before you have in the past. And in those 15 minutes, you're going to come up with 5 ideas. 15 minutes, 5 ideas, starting tomorrow morning. And then the next morning, you're going to come up with 5 more. And the next morning, you're going to come up with 5 more. And stick with it. Make it a 30-day habit. Do it every day for 30 days. Turn it into a habit. In just 15 minutes a day for 30 days, you will see major impact, a major list of great ideas. In fact, so many ideas, you're not going to know what to work on first. So, starting tomorrow, 15 minutes, prioritize it. As with the end of every show, I always ask a favor, and that favor is help me pay it forward. The time that I and my team, we devote to the podcast and creating it and posting the content and the show notes, scheduling guests, all of those types of things. We do this free of charge. We've never charged for the content. We do this as a way of paying it forward, making this available to you to help you think about and encourage you and give you some insights on what has worked for me and what hasn't worked for me over my 40-year career in the innovation game. So, hopefully you find that valuable. The way you can help me is to pay it forward. My mentor, who invested in my career 40 years ago, when I asked how I pay it back, Bob laughs and goes, "You can't pay it back. You have to pay it forward." This podcast, starting 17 years ago, is around paying it forward. It's my way to say thank you to Bob by sharing what I learned with others. So help me pay it forward. Tell somebody about the show. Tell somebody about, point them to the website. Share a particular content with them. Give us a review wherever you get your podcast on. Google Podcast or iTunes or iHeartRadio or Spotify or wherever it is you listen to us, give us a review. I would greatly appreciate that. As I've shared, we are traveling. We've got a whole bunch of trips coming up. You can follow us. I'm probably not being as good at it as I should over on Instagram. So just search for Phil McKinney on Instagram, and I'll try to be a little more diligent about posting pictures over there. But also, we do have some trips coming up. We will be in at a trade show at the end of, I shouldn't say end, second week of October. If you're interested, that will be in Atlanta, Georgia. If you're interested in that, let me know, and I might actually even be able to get you a pass. Can't guarantee it. I can try. If you want to come see the bus and see how we do this show while we're traveling on the road. So with that, again, let other people know. That's the only way we can let people know about the show is by you telling your friends, telling your coworkers about us. And we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thanks for the time. I know it's a lot of time on your busy schedule. You dedicated to get the podcast, listen to it. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And with that, have a great week. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.